My question is, are all trans women women? You haven't answered that question.
Well, that's not the point that we're dealing with here.
That's the question I'm asking.
Trans women are women, but in the prison context, there is no automatic right for a trans woman.
So there are contexts where a trans woman is not a woman?
No, there is circumstances in which a trans woman will be housed in the male prison estate.
Is there any context in which a woman born as a woman will be housed in the male estate?
Look, we're talking here about trans women.
And I'm now asking about women born as women.
I don't think there are circumstances there, but...
So it's different for trans women?
Well, yes, and I'm not...
So they're not equal?
That is not... There is a risk assessment process done for trans women that takes account of the nature of the crime. Clearly, significant concern arises out of sexual crime and whether it's appropriate for them to be in a female prison or a male prison.
Adam Graham. Mr. Graham was convicted of raping two women in 2016 and 2019. One of his victims said, quote, "I told him to stop and he did not. He kept going. That's when I closed my eyes and let him do what he wanted to do." Now imagine just for a second that authorities decided to send this convicted male rapist to a female prison full of women. Total insanity, right? That'd be like sending a convicted nonce to do a motivational talk at a primary school. Well, you don't have to imagine it because it's actually happening. All thanks to Transmania. You see, Mr. Graham now identifies as Isla Bryson, and so is, in the eyes of the legal system, now a woman. According to Bryson, and let's not disrespect the pronouns of a convicted criminal lest they ban this video, she said she felt she was transgender since the age of 4, but just by coincidence only decided to identify as a woman after being caught violently raping two women with her penis. Despite this, the authorities, in their infinite wisdom of ensuring that the alphabet people don't get offended, still decided to send Isla to HMP Cornton Vale, a women's prison in Stirling. This all happened in Scotland, where the government just tried to pass a bill enabling children as young as 15 to be in the process of legally changing their gender. Under the law, they would only have to live as their new gender for 6 months, and then can legally apply to have it changed on their 16th birthday. Transmania.
Several years ago, I came out as pansexual and a trans man. It gets better. My mum convinced me not to share my transition with my child, and I didn't. I kept it quiet because they were young. A few years ago, he came out as a trans boy.
Wow, who could have seen that coming? The bill was so deranged, even the cucked Conservative government in Westminster blocked it, although Nicola Sturgeon has vowed to have that overturned in court. But it gets worse. The few rational people remaining in the Scottish Parliament tried to add an amendment to the bill that would have made it harder for sex offenders to fraudulently apply to change their legal gender, in order to avoid helping out convicted rapists like Adam Graham, and to prevent the legislation from being exploited by male predators to gain access to female spaces. But members of the Scottish Parliament, wait for it, voted it down. Yes, because apparently it's more important for people like Adam Graham, Isla Bryson, to be able to claim and have it legally recognised after 30 years of being a man that they're now a woman, than it is to not send convicted male rapists to female prisons full of women. LGBT activists who supported the legislation said attempts to stop convicted sex offenders from being able to change their gender were transphobic. The fact that sending a convicted rapist to a women's jail would be even considered shows how mad this has all become, said Susan Smith, a director with the For Women Scotland campaign group. Okay, transphobe. Note how the LGBT activists are not saying, no, these convicted criminals are just exploiting transgender identity to get more lenient treatment. This has nothing to do with us, don't conflate the two. They're not saying that. The LGBT activists are defending the right of the convicted criminal sex offenders to identify as transgender. Bryson told the court that she expects the taxpayer to foot the bill for transgender surgery on the NHS. She also revealed how, as a young child, she was, quote, always hanging about with the girls and always doing makeup. Obviously, Isla was a girly girl from an early age. I mean, what kind of female princess doesn't one day dream of getting a Mike Tyson face tattoo? Similar cases to that of Mr. Graham's, with convicted rapists claiming to be transgender to avoid being properly punished, abound. And yet the trans lobby continues to insist that their rights be protected. Transmania, it's a funny old world. Author author J.K. Rowling, who has been plagued with death threats in standing up to the trans lobby, monstered by the alphabet people as a TERF, trans-exclusionary radical feminist, drew attention to Scottish politicians attending a rally in support of their bill, standing in front of signs that said decapitate TERFs. She also highlighted the tweet of a trans activist who called for vehicular terror attacks against women's rights campaigners. So much for the tolerant left. Transmania uber alles.
Well, this is just lovely. I had a neighbor confront me for using the women's restroom. I lived here for 4.5 years. Everyone should know that I'm a trans woman.
With protests outside drag queen events across the Western world increasing, armed left-wing radicals are showing up in bigger and bigger numbers to defend the cause.
Hands. Are we the baddies?
Another such event is set to take place in London, where the publicly funded Tate Gallery is set to host the founder of Drag Queen Storytime UK. Ada HD will be reading and performing for children not once, not twice, but 3 times across the day. The Tate website celebrates Dee as an ADHD, neurodivergent, queer hero of literature, theatre and children's entertainment, and the first drag artist in Europe to read stories to children in a nursery. Wow, what an achievement. Their website fails to include certain other details about Dee, real name Sab Samuel, including questions over his interesting choice of costume, as well as a petition signed by thousands of concerned parents which draws attention to problematic social media posts, including a tweet that says love has no age. But more recently, Samuel's role in fundraising thousands of pounds for his recently deceased friend Darren Moore, a fellow drag queen. Moore was convicted of 4 counts of the rape of a boy under the age of 14. Despite being banned from interacting with children, Moore was subsequently caught working with youth as a gymnastics and dance tutor, for which he received another criminal sentence. Despite his past, the drag queen has appeared at RuPaul's DragCon event. He also represented British Airways at a Pride festival in Brighton in 2018. Audience members walked out of Moore's 2018 Pride Without Prejudice performance after he started making light of the behaviour of serial child abuser Jimmy Savile. Samuel praised Moore as an exuberant human being taken from the world too early, adding rest in power. Tate Gallery has yet to respond to the concerns of the thousands of people who signed the petition. Meanwhile, in California, a 17-year-old girl described what happened to her inside a YMCA locker room.
My name is Rebecca Phillips, and I'm 17 years old. I went to the gym to swim laps. As I was showering after my workout, I saw a naked male in the women's locker room. I immediately went back into the shower, terrified, and hid behind their flimsy excuse for a curtain until he was gone. I ran into a bathroom stall to change as quickly as I could, organizing my thoughts to share with the people at the front desk. As I did so, I could only think of my 5-year-old sister, who I bring to this gym during the summer to enjoy their water slides. This is the YMCA, where hundreds of children spend their summer afternoons in childcare camps.
YMCA responded by saying the biological male was free to shower where he pleased. A rally was then held outside the facility in support of the 17-year-old, and the individual accused of exposure then appeared at that rally, stating, quote, "I'm the scary transgender woman who that child misidentified as a man." I mean, what kind of bigot could have possibly made that mistake?
And now it's 100% water aerobics. That's what I do.
Then there's this story about a gay activist couple in Georgia, which is so horrific, I can't even bring myself to talk about it. If you want to learn more about that hellish abomination, Google the headline. Now I wonder, if any other kind of political movement was producing such stories, such characters, such behaviour, would major Western cities be blanketed with its flag? Would the daily architecture of our lives be turned over as a constant reminder of their cause? Would every major government, corporation and institution bend over backwards to amplify their agenda? Somehow, I really don't think so. Do you?